Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the internationally known, internationally growing Two Buck Sports Pod. Welcome in my co-host, Uncle Buck here. Uncle Buck, man, we are growing on the international scene like wildfire. Who knew that we had such fans in other pockets of the world outside of our little neighborhoods here in South Carolina and Mississippi?
I tell you what, growing up in Mississippi, you don't think much gets out of here. Now, if you
Yeah.
want to do something big, you got to go somewhere else. Well, I'm telling you, people are coming to Mississippi to listen to this podcast, and I thought it was because of the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my blistering takes on the World Cup, and the knowledge that you can get from this podcast on the World Cup, you cannot find
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else.
Nope.
But as you told me, well, go ahead, tell everybody else where the listeners are coming from.
Yeah, so through our hosting site, it kind of gives us a snapshot of where our downloads are. And as expected, our downloads top ones are United States of America with an undisclosed location. It could be anywhere. Number two
From
coming
a
in.
bunker somewhere.
Yep, from the bunker somewhere, Camp David. Number two is Corinth, Mississippi. No
Shout out.
shocker there. Yep, big shout out to the 38834. Number three is Brussels, Belgium with 11 downloads.
There we
Um,
go.
so we definitely got
Brussels.
a pocket of World Cup fans there. But
You
just scroll
know,
on
you know what Brussels is famous for, right?
their pancakes, waffles.
I
What?
was going to say they're sprouts, but okay.
That's fair.
Belgium as a country is known for their waffles.
Their waffles. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you the Brussels sprouts with it. You are a dad now, so you're entitled to dad jokes.
Hey,
Rounding out the number 10 spot in our most downloaded podcast locations with 4 downloads is the Netherlands.
the Dutch.
Yeah, to the Dutch.
To the Dutch. They're still hanging on.
Yep.
You know.
So we knew about those two. Those been around a while. We've got 2 new countries with 1 download each. So big shout out to our new listeners in Mexico City, Mexico. Big soccer town there.
Yeah. Yeah. Mexico City, higher up in the sky than our own brethren of Colorado.
That's it, man. You can't. Not everybody can go play football there without passing out.
You can you can get high in Mexico, but you can get higher in Colorado.
That's fair. And then we have a new one, and I'm not even going to begin to try and pronounce this town, but it's in
No, please,
India.
please, give it your best.
All
Give
right.
it your best.
In my best Kasuth English, it is Chennai, India. So we're going to go with
Chennai
Chennai.
in India.
Yeah, that's it, man. Whose bed have you boots been under?
The World Cup is over, but I hope you stick around. Although Mexico and India didn't quite fare too well in the World Cup, so they didn't make it as far as the U.S. if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And if you don't make it further than the U.S., then you're a pretty poor soccer community.
And just remember, at the end of the day, the United States has 32 SEC championships. The rest of the world has 0.
Cheers to that.
And the only sport that matters. Anyway, yeah. So welcome into the International Podcast. Drew, our audience is growing and we're trying to reach more people. So just want to give a quick shout out. We now have a blog page. We have our own website. So far, we launched it over the weekend just with some kind of an introductory blog and then some quick analysis of a Grizzlies loss and a Tennessee Titans loss. But I've had 10 visitors so far, 12 views of the blog. So just another way that we can kind of interact with our audience, get to breaking news a little bit sooner, and then offer our expert analysis on the teams that we care about.
Yeah, that was a great idea. That was Rusty's idea, and I'm here for it. Back in the day, before we did this podcast, I did a weekly, I guess you could call it a blog, a sports, our fantasy football awards show that I tried to keep up weekly, and if I'm being honest, it didn't happen every week. But I've always found that was a really fun way to just channel thoughts. I've always been better to do it that way. You can hear me sometimes on here you can hear my gears going when I'm speaking. So when I can write it down, it all tends to flow a little better. And so that's a very good medium for in between podcasts. I feel like we miss a pretty good bit on we're catching news a few days late when we do a weekly podcast. So if there's anything big that goes on or anything we just want to touch on in between Wednesdays, that's where you'll find us on that WordPress account. And Rusty, give them the website in which they can find that, or where they can find the link to it.
Yep. So it's the number 2 bucksportspod.com. So you just type that in your browser or pull up our WordPress. There's currently 3 blogs up there. Again, just like with our channels, guys, give it a like, give it a follow, share it with somebody. Help us get word out about our expert knowledge in all things Southern sports. But any kind of support like that is helpful. We appreciate it. Definitely get on there and give it a read.
Right. And that is 2 Bucks Sports Pod with the number 2 on Instagram and Twitter, and the WordPress site as well. So with that being told, let's get into the news of the week. So I'm a Christmas guy. You know that. So a couple weeks ago we did songs. Last week we did movies. And so I called Rusty today and I was like, today on the pod, I just want you to give me your Christmas list. What are you asking Santa for this year? We'll go one at a time, and we have not got much of a format this week, so we're going to use this to guide the podcast. We've got some things we want to touch, but I imagine some of them will be touched in this. So let's just hang loose here and tell me what you want the big man upstairs to bring you this Sunday.
So I guess kind of first and foremost, we covered it in depth last week. I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch did you see the memorial for Mike Leach on the SEC network today?
I actually did. I watched the whole thing.
It was really cool, man. Bob Stoops up there, really bringing out the emotions. A lot of guys had a lot of nice things to say. I appreciate what he said about Mike Leach. He's coaching the football game up there, and it's 4th and 2 in his own 40. He's going for it. Just a homage to him for sure.
As one should. You don't win championships by punting.
That's right.
Mike Leach, it was just doing what everybody should have been doing this whole time.
Absolutely, man. And that was made him great, but we won't, begrudge that any longer. For me, my first Christmas wish, it's just stability for my program. I like the hire of Zach Arnett. I think that's a win. Is he going to be the guy that takes us to that next level? I don't know. This is only his 3rd season as a coordinator. Now he's being rushed into a head coach position. I don't know that he's the guy long-term, but he's the right call right now with the right timing. The National Signing Day is tomorrow, or the early signing day is tomorrow. The transfer portal is the Wild West. Listen, today, as of this morning, Texas A&M has 25 players in the transfer portal. Not all of them are starters, but still 25 players. Ole Miss has 18. There's a lot of dudes that are looking for new schools, and it was the right hire at the right time. So my first wish, a little bit sentimental, is that we'll find some stability in Starkville with Zach Arnett.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think that hire was the best way to achieve stability quicker. The question was, do you go for stability or do you try to go for broke, And so, yeah, if stability is what you want, I think stability is what you're going to get. In regards to the transfer portal, like you said, everybody's got a bunch, and that's the case everywhere. Now, Texas A&M, or we're going to touch on this later because I want to get into the kind of my thought on the early signing day and signing day in general. But A&M's doing it again, with the signing of all these huge 4- and 5-star players and kind of getting who they want again. But you can look at the transfer portal and see kind of how the current players feel about how things are going.
Yeah.
And so,
again,
as far as Ole Miss is concerned, Ole Miss only brought in, they had the number 1 class of transfer portal kids last year in the country. So that kind of money in, money out, you're going to, in 5 years, you're going to see players who have played for 5 schools. That's how it's going to be.
You already see that. JT Daniels is looking for his 4th team in 4 years. Started at USC, Georgia, West Virginia, now looking for a new school. Devin O'Leary's found a new school in Kentucky, which is a big get for them. But it's interesting. Ole Miss has definitely worked the transfer portal a lot harder than Mississippi State. Yeah, we both finished 8-4 this past year. So like, there's still the data is still really new on the transfer portal with these new, ability to be able to transfer a little bit easier. So I'm curious what that's going to look like. Is there a better win-loss total for these schools that work the transfer portal, or what does that actually look like, say 5-6 years down the road?
Well, and if you got to remember, you only get one free transfer still. Like you can transfer as many times as you want still, but you still, if you're the team that gets the one free transfer kid, then you've got a little leverage because if he leaves, then he's going to have to sit out a year. So it's definitely interesting, and it's complicated. It's muddied the waters. And if you want to get into National Signing Day right now, I can just give you my quick blurb on it.
Let's hold on that. Let's do our Christmas wishes first. We'll get to National Signing Day in a minute because I do want to have that conversation because I think we both have some pretty interesting opinions on it. So my first wish is just stability with Zach Arnett. Wish he'd do well. So
okay,
we got.
Well, my first Christmas wish is I wish that Desmond Bane would be back for Christmas. As us diehard Grizzlies fans know, and as NBA fans throughout the world are starting to find out that the Grizzlies are good and they're here to stay. And that is the most evident in being displayed in the fact that they've got a Christmas Day game this year. They are having a rematch with Golden State, who put us out of the playoffs last year in a series that I believe if Ja Morant stays healthy, we win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes to 6 games, and we played 2.5 of them without him. So I do believe that the Grizzlies win that series last year if Ja Morant stays healthy.
Yeah. And one of the games without Ja, we won by like 30-something points. Like we outplayed them for the entirety of the series, except for them.
Yeah. Right. And so I wish that Desmond Bane would be back for Christmas. And it seems like maybe it could happen because I don't know if you've seen it. Do you know how news leaks out on Twitter? It's by emojis.
Oh yeah.
And we got those wide side-eyed emojis coming from Desmond Bane a couple days ago, retweeted by Ja, and then Ja commented a picture with some question marks. It was a picture of Bane in his uniform on the court, and so
that Desmond Bane then liked. So
maybe we're being investigators and trying too hard, but this has happened before when it leaks out by the players on social media. And I don't know if you saw this or not. This was the most telling thing for me. Danny Green was on NBA Today on ESPN.
Which I found really weird that he was on there talking about himself as a trade piece, but that's a different conversation.
And that is what got everybody paid attention to, is that it's been known that he's wanted to get into broadcasting later, and even Bally Sports has had him on during games to commentate for a quarter.
He does a great job. Yeah.
Right. And so everybody started talking about Brian Windhorst looking at Danny Green right there to his left and saying, "You're a trade piece," And of course, Danny Green, as the professional, the vet, said, "Yeah, I understand this is the business, and I'm an expiring contract." But then later in that interview, he said, "Yeah, and especially with Bane coming back for Christmas." And I was like, "Oh, well, hold on a second." Everybody's talking about the shade that Windhorst apparently threw. And Danny Green slipped that in. And I was like, all right. But I was kind of discouraged a little bit today because I keep track with the injury reports as they come out. I've got the tweet notification from Grizz PR to get the injury reports. And typically, when a player's coming off injury, especially a lengthy one, they will go doubtful for a game. And they won't play. And they'll go questionable for a game. They won't play. And then they'll play that third game. Well, he's just listed as out for tonight's game against Denver. Just no doubtful, no questionable. He's just out. So maybe they break from the pattern here. I know when I think it was Jaren. They just he went from doubtful to questionable before a game was played, and then
he was also one that got leaked on Twitter because Ja tweeted out the unicorn emoji, and that week is when he was able to start kind of getting back in the mix a little bit.
So Ja breaks more Grizzlies news than Woj.
That's it.
They definitely want to take his phone away from him most of the time.
It'll be in his new contract, like Hugh Freeze. You can't be on social media anymore.
When he got on, now he makes a lot of money, and they're gonna let him. He's got more leeway than me and you will ever have at our jobs. Yeah. But when he got tossed out of that game on Saturday night against Oklahoma City and went straight back to the locker room, started retweeting folks.
Yeah.
If that would have been us, that we'd have had our phone snatched quick.
But, not only that, but he's FaceTiming with the fan on the sideline, man, through his dad. He calls it, he FaceTimes his pop and says, go talk to that lady.
My conversation wasn't over yet.
I wasn't done. Just because Acosta took offense to it, I wasn't done.
So I want Desmond Bane back for the Christmas night game against Golden State.
Which leads me into my next Christmas wish, and that's that these NBA refs will pick whatever wedgie they have right now out and get over it, man. Like, all right, let me set the stage. So I'm watching this game Saturday night, and it looks like Ja is jawing with the ref. But in reality, it's early in the first quarter. It's about 12 minutes into the game. Ja's got 6 points so far, really hadn't hit his stride yet, but he's been slashing a lot and not getting some pretty obvious foul calls. So he already not getting the superstar calls he should be getting. Right. So he already took offense to it and said something to referee, last name's Acosta, and wrote about it in the blog. He took offense to not getting the calls and said something, got a technical. A couple minutes later, it looks like from the TV angle, he's jawing with the same referee who then tees him up and kicks him out of the game. Well, basically, it comes out that he was actually talking.
This was in the second quarter.
The second quarter
was halfway through the second quarter.
Yeah, it was about 16 minutes of game time is all he'd been able to play. He's standing there to the free throw. He's standing in the block. He's talking to this girl, and he gets rung up. And basically, it comes out that this is a Grizz super fan that catches most of our games, travels a lot, sees us play on the road. So Ja's familiar with him. And she asked Ja, are you going to be able to get back in this game? And with some colorful language that I will omit, he said, yes, I will, if the refs will quit messing around and give us some calls. Well, Mr. Acosta took offense to that, ran him out. You know, I've watched a couple other NBA games. Well, obviously watched most of the Grizz games. Probably
it happened to Luka last night.
Like, these NBA refs are pulling an Angel Hernandez. They're trying to be a part of the game. And when the refs do their job, you don't even know, like the best referee games, you don't even know they're there. They keep the game flow. They get the obvious calls, but they let the guys play because the NBA is going to have to do something, because when you got superstars like Ja getting run in the second quarter, Luka catching technicals in the first half, you got Embiid tossed by halftime. Like, the superstars are getting run out that the fans are paying to come see. Like, no offense to the Salty Adamas of the world, no offense to these other like second tier
Dylan Brooks, who
nobody's coming to watch them. They're coming to watch Ja, Luka, Embiid, Giannis, those guys. And if they're getting tossed in the first half,
it especially sucks on road games too, because in Oklahoma City, I was listening to a podcast even before this happened, where they were talking to some Oklahoma City folks, and they were saying that the Grizzlies coming to Oklahoma City to play was projected to be their highest selling game of the year.
Yeah.
And for Ja to get rung up in the second quarter, and so I'm not a bash the refs guy. I really try not to be, especially when it comes to like dictating wins and losses and ticky-tack fouls, and it's got to be pretty egregious. My problem with Acosta in this situation was that it was a pride move. It was Ja damaged his ego, and he let his ego determine that game, because what he could have done was just ignored it.
Yeah.
Because I would understand it if Ja was going at him. Like you said, like it seemed like he may have been facing his direction
when it was
from
live.
One of the one of the camera angles. But he wasn't. And so, and I know Ja's run hot before, and he's done some stuff to get tossed. And if he were to gone at him and MF'd him to his face, then I'm going to side with that ref. Just be like, you know what, I'm a person too, almost. Like, you're going to treat me with a little bit of respect. You may not agree with me, but at least respect the position I'm in. I miss calls. I'm sorry. I hate it.
Yeah.
But don't come at me like that. Don't point at me. Don't throw your hands at me, don't run at me. But he was eavesdropping on the conversation with a fan and got his feelings hurt.
And that's the thing, like had he not tossed Ja, there would have been about 15 people right there that knew what happened. The rest of the world would have had no clue because Ja was talking to that fan and it didn't get picked up by a hot mic. Nobody heard it. Like nothing came out of it. And you're right. They've got this thin skin, this ego thing that if you're an NBA rep, that's a tough job. You know, people are going to talk about you. You know, they're going to say things.
You signed up for it.
You signed up for it. And like you said, unless you're getting berated to your face, you got to let some of that stuff go and let your ego be put aside.
Right. Because you've got to know who pays your bills. And I'm not saying that you don't want NBA officials cowering to superstars either. You want it to be as fair as possible.
Right.
However, you've got to know if Oklahoma City, now they're on a hot streak right now. They're not as bad as we thought. But say that happens in Charlotte, who is horrible. And the only reason these people are going to see Charlotte and Memphis is because Ja Morant.
Because we play there once a year, you know.
Right. And the money, the income that comes in on those tickets that are sold, it'll be the best game that Charlotte's had all year. And I mean, if it were me and I was a Charlotte fan going to see Ja Morant in Charlotte, I'm out of there.
Yeah.
Like you've missed a half of concessions, you've missed T-shirt sales, everything.
Yep.
I'm gone.
Yep.
You know, because I know we're not going to lose. You know.
And here's the other thing. I was listening to. I'm gonna give a shout out to. I'm not sure if you listen to these guys yet, but there's a network of podcasts called Locked On Sports.
Yes.
And they
post. I'm aware of the network.
Yes. So they post daily podcasts. I get notifications for the Titans and the Grizz, and they come out every day, Monday through Friday, and then they do a Sunday one for the Titans, just a quick recap of the game usually. Joe Mullinax was talking about this very incident earlier this week, yesterday on the podcast, Locked On Grizzlies. You can find on Spotify. And he was talking about where it's going to start hurting is Vegas. Because, you look up Vegas numbers, nobody's betting on certain referees to toss 2.5 players, to call 6.5 technical fouls, right? What they're going to call for is Ja's going to have plus, 8.5 rebounds. Giannis is going to have 29.5 points. And when you're getting these guys tossed early and Vegas starts losing a lot of money or vice versa, that's when they'll be starting some pressure be put on the NBA refs. I thought it was an excellent point.
Right, because we live in a day of time of sports betting being legal. And there is an official, I believe is it Caesars? That is the official sports book of the NBA has affiliation with a sports book. If the sports book is taking a bath every time a superstar gets kicked, because those prop bets aren't hitting, well then, that's going to trickle down too. I hadn't thought about that.
That was a great point. Yeah, like Ja getting tossed early and he doesn't hit the over-under that he's supposed to, and Vegas loses their shirt on it, things will change. And yeah, you're right, because they've got that goofy little commercial with Manning Brothers and the floating Caesars that always plays on Bally Sports.
Yeah, you got what's his name? Vince Vaughn and JB Smoove.
Right.
But if I was an Oklahoma City fan, I'd be pretty mad that Ja got tossed too, because before even Ja got tossed, they were kicking our tail.
Absolutely.
And the Grizzlies just showed up flat the whole game. And Ja getting rung up, tossed out of that game, distracted from the fact that Oklahoma City worked us pretty good that game.
Yeah, we did not look interested. Brandon Clark did not play well. I mean, nobody, not singling anybody, but nobody played well. Nobody played great.
Dylan Brooks took more shots than everybody combined in the first half.
Yeah, it was just a terrible combined effort from top to bottom, offense, defense, and God bless Trevor Drinkinson. He tried everything. Timeouts, he drew up plays, he tried everything. That team was just not interested in that game, and I was afraid of that after such a big win. But I thought we were professionals and we were past that, but apparently not.
Yeah. Anyway. My second wish list. I've written this down and I put it in the mail for Santa. I would like a remote control that is so big that it's impossible to lose. I'm talking about make it a piece of furniture that I can sit beside my chair.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids and a dog that love this remote, and every time I was sitting down here. It was crazy how these things come to me, I guess. But I'm sitting down here to do pre-work for the pod, and I knew I wanted to come up with a Christmas list, and I wanted to put it on the NBA game, the Warriors game that's playing right now. wanted to put it on while I was thinking, and I couldn't find the remote anywhere. I was like, all right, well, that's what I want. I want the biggest remote control you can find because I never can find that thing.
That's awesome. That's good. I like that. We had one in college that was the size of like a small book. Shout out my roommate John Goldman. We had this big silver one, and he had programmed. We had 2 different TVs that we had in our living room that you could watch. Had it programmed to those. That thing was a brick, man, and it weighed a ton. You'd ask for the remote, somebody throw it at you, and
it's like throwing a laptop.
That's it. You better catch it, man. It's like a flying iPad at least.
Yeah. There you go. Make it the size of an iPad, or make it my iPad. How about that?
Absolutely. There you go. Yeah. Download the app, man. There it is. We'll create an app for it.
Yeah. But I don't want to because I've got a Fire Stick on my control on my iPad, but I can't control the volume or turn the TV on with it.
On and off.
And then I'm not going to get up there and push the buttons like it's the 80s.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know where the buttons are at on this TV. I've had it for years.
I had a friend's grandfather, God rest his soul. His son, my friend's dad, had just bought a TV, first TV with a remote that they don't ever own as a family, right? And they come over and they're sitting there looking at the TV, and my friend's dad said, "Look at this, I got a remote." And he changed the channel a couple times, and his dad was sitting over there real pensive, like, he said, "Son," he said, "I would hate to see the day where I got so lazy that I couldn't ask my wife to get up and change the channel when I needed it changed."
I don't know that there's anything my wife wouldn't throw at me if I said, "Hey, get up, go up and change that picture on the TV."
Absolutely.
So what's next on your Christmas list?
Next on my Christmas list is, I wish, and I know you've got a hot take on your bowl games, and that's great, but I wish there were more opt-ins like Bryce Young and Will Anderson. Those guys said, we over me, decided to opt in 2 weeks ago when we did this podcast. And I said, look, man, I think K-State's going to run all over Alabama. They're going to have opt-outs left and right. With Bryce Young and Will Anderson coming back, I think it's going to be a much better game. Jigsaw, that receiver at Ohio State, he opted out.
Jigsaw?
That's his nickname, man.
Really? It's in Jigba. Jackson and Jigba. So,
great nickname, right?
That's a great nickname, yeah.
Right? Jigsaw.
I'd much rather say Jigsaw.
Yeah, that's why I said it, because I'm going to butcher his real name.
Yeah.
But guys like that opting out for the entire season, that's, I understand, from the player's perspective, if you've got a significant chance of injury, but you've got a higher chance of being a first top 10 pick, or at least a first round
your
pick.
Ceiling is whether you play or not, you can't go any higher.
I get it. I understand. I understand it's a business decision, but at the same time, man, it just feels like a cop out. To me, and again, this is strictly the opinions of Rusty Wood, not the voice of this podcast, but I feel like it's a coward's way out of you know what? I committed to this team, but I'm out. I'm going to take care of myself. To me, it's at least a yellow flag if I'm an NFL executive. And so for my next Christmas wish, I'm going to sound like a curmudgeon, like an old man, but I don't like opt-outs, man. Don't like opt-outs.
And I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to use as strong a language as calling it, quitting or anything like that. I do believe it's part of the thing. It was the final thing that endeared Ole Miss fans to Matt Corral is that he played.
Yeah.
The opposite's true though. He got injured, and it ended up not being a long-term one. I'm with you. If you cannot gain ground from the bowl game, I have no problem with you leaving, especially if you're not playing in the playoff. If you're playing in the playoff, you should play. The Jackson Jigsaw, I believe he should play. Now, he's one of those that he's projected in the top half of the first round, so his ceiling is not going to get any higher by playing well in the playoff. But that is for that's it. That's what you play for,
right?
And so I do have a problem with that. And so what I said about Matt Corral, I believe about Bryce Young. If all things are equal, if you scout Bryce Young and help me out, the C.J. Stroud and Will Levis, if you scout all of them together and you are looking at they're all the same, and two of them opt out and Bryce Young plays, then I want Bryce Young.
Absolutely. Tough kid.
Especially at the quarterback position. Because, first off, I think Bryce Young's incredible, and he's going to be that quarterback that's overlooked because of measurables, and he shouldn't be. He's probably going to be the best quarterback that's in that draft.
Yep.
But if all things were equal, I want the guy that's going to go ride with his boys. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Especially at quarterback. I want the guy that laces up and says, ride or die. I'm with you guys. I'm not going to start thinking about myself now.
Yeah.
We're going to win this or lose this together.
Yeah, I agree. I want that tough kid that's like, you know what? I'm a part of this team. We built this. We're going to finish it. That's the kind of guy I want lacing up. I sure don't want somebody who's going to put mayonnaise in their coffee, but that's a conversation for another day.
Oh, listen, if we get into the NFL draft, Will Levis will not be a fan of ours.
No, sorry, Aaron Ivey, but when we do the in a couple months when we do the NFL draft preview, you might want to skip that episode. But
and you can just I'll listen to you. You know that he had a bad offensive coordinator. His junior year was better than sophomore year was better than his junior year. I'll agree with you on that. I will not have a quarterback to lead my franchise that puts mayonnaise in coffee.
Yeah, like we had this conversation with Aaron earlier. Like some people put ketchup on steak. Like I can follow the logic and get to that conclusion. There is not a single logical point in any galaxy that exists today where putting mayonnaise in coffee is a normal, just everyday thing. Like you just say it in conversation. How do you take your coffee? With 1 scoop of mayonnaise, please. You do that at Starbucks, they're going to run you out on a rail.
Yes, I'll have a venti iced mocha, but instead of milk, can you use mayo?
Let's say get out.
Yeah, right. No, you get out. So, yeah. No,
anyway, what's your next Christmas list wish besides mayonnaise being eradicated?
You know, that was going to be number 5 for me, but I'm only going to do 4. You know, take all the mayonnaise in the world, put it on a rocket ship, live the recipe, and shoot it into orbit. That's my stance on mayonnaise. All right, so my next Christmas wish is that Ole Miss gets a new basketball coach. And
I'm not basketball now, huh?
Yeah, no, that's kind of my point. That's where I'm going to get to. Ole Miss lost to the University of North Alabama today in a matinee. They were Ken Palm 350 something out of 350 something plus 3. Like that's how far down the list they were.
Wow.
They got beat in a matinee in Oxford by UNA. And the new coach thing is, I've told you, I don't pay much attention to Ole Miss basketball.
Sure.
But that can change. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love the Grizzlies. They get a lot of my time and effort on basketball fronts and in basketball season. But I'm a Rebel first. I love Ole Miss. That's who I was raised. I was raised by Ole Miss fans. I am a purebred Ole Miss fan. And I couldn't care less about this basketball team. And it's because since Kermit Davis has been there, they went to the tournament his first year, and they've been terrible ever since. Yeah. Or worse than terrible, they've just been good enough for him not to get fired. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I want to pay attention to Ole Miss basketball. But if you're telling me that on a normal Tuesday at 2:00, when there's not much going on, there's not anything to watch for sure or listen to, I'd love to be able to listen to an Ole Miss basketball game. But you're going to lose to UNA? Like, I'm done. Like, what I was not paying much attention before, but the faucet is off at this point.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to get new blood in there.
Gone are the days of Andy Kennedy being shoved in the back of a cop car saying, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?" That's the last time Ole Miss was relevant.
And Andy Kennedy did not make the tournament near enough, and that's why he got canned.
Yeah.
But much like Mike Leach, Andy Kennedy was not tamed by anybody. You're talking about there's some stories on Andy Kennedy when he was playing in the Tad Pad And I don't know if you've ever been to the Tad Pad in Oxford.
Mhm.
It was how to best put it? It was like a tornado shelter that they played
Oh yeah,
basketball in.
I saw Jarvis Renato block about 15 shots one night up there.
Yeah. One time he was giving a tour or talking to one of the reporters before the game, and they were walking around the court. He said, "Hey, look up there," and pointed up at the roof. He
Mhm.
said, "You see that blue dot?" The guy said, "Yeah." He said, "That's the sky." So I mean, so at least if you're not going to be good, be entertaining.
Yeah,
If you're
that's
not
it.
going to be good or be good at it, you know what I'm saying?
That's it, man.
Kermit is nothing,
Yeah,
neither.
I
And
agree.
so, give me someone else, and I don't really care who. I'll hit the reset button when Ole Miss hits the reset button.
There you go. Yeah, man. Like, even like I mean, Mississippi State. We lost today. Lost to Drake. They're a 9-3 team. They're like one of those teams that flirts the tournament every year. But it's our first loss of the year. Like we're at
They
least
also
competitive.
make camouflage clothing.
Mhm.
Bad loss, poor loss.
Probably not the same people, but Mississippi State. We'll find out what we got the next couple of games. We play Alabama at home. We play at Tennessee, but it'd be nice to have you kind of paying attention to college basketball, so we could kind of talk about have some segments on that. I think that'd be good. So yeah, I'm for that.
I'll pay attention. I'm just not going to pay much attention to Ole Miss. I really get into college basketball when everybody else does later in the season, close to
Mhm.
tournaments, and I
Mhm.
really like watching the players that are projected to go high in the draft.
Yeah, there you
Uh,
go.
so,
That's fair.
college basketball is just like what the NBA has turned into. It's a
Mhm.
player's sport more
Yeah.
than a team sport.
Yep.
And younger fans of the NBA, especially NBA is a national. It's not like baseball where it's very localized in segments and then
Mhm.
in the surrounding areas in which there's a team. NBA is very widespread, and it's all because of superstar players. Kids
Absolutely.
love players, and so
Yeah, especially because like I was talking to a buddy today in Corinth, and his nephew like he doesn't know much about the NBA, but he knows John Morant, and John Morant's his favorite player. And like we could go, my boss in Wilmington, his son's favorite player is John Morant, and so I had my John Morant pocket square on at a meeting recently. He took a picture of it to show that, yeah, shout out to Drew for getting that for me. He took a picture to show his son. You're right, like these small market teams now, because these guys, not everybody's going to the Lakers and to the Knicks anymore. They're staying in Memphis. They're staying in Milwaukee. They're going to these smaller markets and create like New Orleans. New Orleans is the number 5 team in the newest NBA power rankings. You're absolutely right. And I think you're going to see more of that in college basketball with this NIL deal. Cause like, schools like Auburn, schools like A&M, they've got these deep vats that right now they're mostly for football. But as that kind of develops, I think we're going to see less of the blue bloods. And especially in a sport like college basketball, where you can only have 12 guys that travel. You're going to
right.
see that talent spread out a whole lot more, I think, than you will in football. In football, it's still going to be the blue bloods because they can afford it. They have more roster spots. They can take the cream of the crop and everybody else. But you can see a
Well,
lot of
and you can
going to start
commit
going
a lot.
elsewhere.
Your dollar goes a lot further in college basketball.
Right.
So, all right. You're up.
All right. So this is not very controversial. You take one look at me, I'm a Little Debbie's snack cake guy. Like I
Yes.
love me some oatmeal cream pies, zebra cakes, cosmic brownies, doesn't matter.
Oh, I hope I know where you're going with this.
But my Christmas wish is that we have Christmas cakes throughout the year.
The Christmas trees?
Those are the best snack cakes ever made.
Best wish ever.
Yes. So I've got a t-shirt that says Little Debbie's Barbell Club, and I wear it to the gym all the time because I am a snack cake fanatic, man.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
love Little Debbie's. And there's nothing I like when it comes to the holiday time. Like I understand people look forward to the gifts and the reverence of the season and the family time. And I hear all that. And that's
You made
fine.
a Christmas tree
But there's
cake.
one thing I look forward to more than any of it, and it's those white boxes that come out, the big rectangle at Walmart, and you can get them at the dollar store. I love Christmas tree cakes, man. Give them to me at least you can at least modify it. Like they're Christmas tree cakes, then they're Easter eggs, then they're fireworks, but like keep the recipe. Give me Christmas tree cakes all year round.
And the best part of those Christmas tree cakes are the little crusty sprinkles on the top.
Oh my gosh.
And let me warn you. So, my neighbors, I have great neighbors. their girls brought me over. They know that I love the Christmas tree cakes. And
Yeah.
so they said, Uncle Buck, got your Christmas present, brought me a box of Christmas tree cakes. And I was like, oh, thank you, girls. That's great. There's 5 of them that come into a box. So
Yeah.
I got one. And the girls, there's 3 of them that are our neighbors. They all came over and started playing with my kids. And they saw me eat one and they're like, can I have one? And I was like, girls, y'all just gave these to me. Like, I hadn't even had them in my possession for like 5 minutes, and you're robbing my stash. And so before I know it, I have no Christmas tree games. So I went to Walmart, and this is the warning for you.
Mhm.
I go to Walmart and I'm got a hankering. You don't want to grocery shop when you're hungry.
Never.
Well, I had a hankering for some Christmas tree cakes, and I happened to be in Walmart. And so I saw the box of Christmas tree cakes. I'm like, there they are. And
Mhm.
right beside it, I saw a king size box. I was like, oh, okay, nope. Wait. The king size box are king size Christmas trees. And the ratio of sprinkles to
Mm,
Christmas tree is off.
no
It's
way.
off.
Come on,
It's
man.
like it's just like eating a white cake shaped like a Christmas tree. There's not enough sprinkles.
No,
And
no
so
crunch.
just consider this a tip and a warning.
Mm.
If you're thinking about the king size box of Christmas tree cakes, get 2 of the boxes of normal Christmas tree cakes.
'Cause listen,
And
man,
hide them from your kids.
that's
Hide them
it.
from your kids. Rusty,
And
you
your
don't have
neighbors.
any kids, but all of our listeners in Belgium and Mexico City and India and Mississippi, hide them from your kids.
That's
I,
it.
it's not something you can get year round, so you have the right to be selfish. Same goes with the mini Cadbury eggs at Easter time. Stock
Yep.
up, put them in your
Absolutely.
safe,
Yep.
and don't tell a soul.
Nope. And nothing makes me feel more like an adult than sitting on my couch with a half a low ball of Old Forester, Bullet Rye, and 2 Christmas tree cakes in my lap. Like, this is peak adulting right here. Nobody can tell me I can't do this.
If you haven't taken a nap in your recliner with 2 wrappers of Christmas tree cakes laying on your belly, then you have not lived.
You clearly haven't lived.
All right, I'm gonna ruin this good mood we're in right now.
Oh, man.
Because with my last Christmas wish, I wish for more respect from the Ole Miss baseball team, because I don't know if you saw this or not. They came out with the NCAA collegiate baseball. I don't know who does this poll, but I need to write a strongly worded letter. The defending champions are not number 1, but not only are they not number 1, they're not number 23 because they are number 24.
Yeah, they lost everybody.
That's why I didn't wish for Tim Elko to come back. I wish for respect. I mean, come on, give us a chance.
Oh, Lord, thanks for coming out to the podcast tonight, guys.
We did not even make the SEC tournament.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the podcast, guys. We'll talk to y'all next week. This is
in no world did that trash Mississippi State team last year deserve to be 23. You didn't. The difference in y'all's team and our team that won the national championship is your trash team comes back.
We took a victory lap, man. We lost our key players in Bednar, Rowdy Jordan. Like,
and
we
you haven't replaced them.
Allen. Like, that's the thing. We took a victory lap. We let everybody get used to it. Now we're going to be back.
You haven't replaced them with anybody, and yet they ranked you 2 spots higher than the defending national champions. Ole Miss is in between Georgia Tech and Texas, who Texas is probably too low too. But above Ole Miss is let's see, Southern Miss, who we beat the brakes off of in the Super Regional. And let's see, Wake Forest, UC Santa Barbara.
Listen, this is clearly a biased poll. This is clearly a biased poll because they got LSU and Florida. Florida got ran in their own regional last year. LSU is not that great. They didn't return a ton of guys. They graduated a lot. Tennessee, A&M, Louisville, Arkansas, Miami, Vanderbilt. That's they're top 10 teams. Like, this is clearly a biased poll, and I'm not going to stand for it. I agree. I agree with half of your point. Ole Miss shouldn't even be ranked because they're the worst. but I agree with half your point.
Oh, let me show you the picture. I painted this picture. This is of the Ole Miss team dogpiling in Omaha on June the 26th, 2022. I am somewhere up here in right field crying my eyes out with my father.
Yeah,
So
calling me when I'm laid up on the couch with COVID or rubbing it in my face that y'all won the national championship, because there's nothing else to do on a Tuesday afternoon when you have COVID but lay on the couch and watch your arch rival win a freaking title.
It was a Sunday, so you didn't have anything better to do.
Whatever day it was.
And you could have had your leg amputated, and I would have called you and bragged about it. I don't care. So I'm not asking for you to project them to win the College World Series again, although no one projected them to win it last year, and here we are. So I just want some respect in the polls, and whoever the NCAA collegiate baseball poll writer is is going to be getting an email from $2 Sports Podcast at gmail.com.
You keep my name off. You keep my name off that email, and I'm gonna add one more Christmas wish. And my Christmas wish is I wish for the delusion of an Ole Miss fan, just to think how great they truly are.
It's a championship. It's hardware. It's a fact. What are you talking about?
If you can buy an Ole Miss fan for what they're worth and sell them for what they think they're worth, you're coming out in the black 100 times out of 100.
Well, yeah, that's why we got all of our money.
Oh my gosh,
we make good deals.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, we're gonna move right along.
Delusion.
This is a family podcast. We're not gonna sit here and talk about Ole Miss anymore.
Look. This is concrete proof. It's a national champion. This is not delusion. It's fact, Rusty. Wake up. You've got to accept it. You can't move on until you accept it.
Absolutely not. We're speaking of moving on. We've got college football going on, so we're not going to worry about some little shoddy baseball team in Oxford, Mississippi right now.
The champions.
Yeah. So, a couple bowl games today.
Yes, let's talk about Eastern Michigan and San Diego State, so you can not talk about Ole Miss winning the national championship anymore.
San Jose State, right now, the Fighting Hugh Freezes are losing to Toledo 13-7 in what sounds like a riveting football game.
I'll tell you what, that really, if that don't get your wood burning, that don't get your fire burning your woods wet.
The leading passer in the game has 87 yards. The leading rusher has 49. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. But tomorrow night is the big game that we're talking about. We've talked about a lot. Western Kentucky, South Alabama. Won't talk about that anymore. I know we've talked about it a few times on here.
Hey, go America.
Yeah. There you go. USA, baby.
I feel like I may need to redo my take on that game since you caused me to butcher it so bad last week.
I didn't cause nothing. I let you roll with it, man. You were all passionate. It was nice to see you fired up about something, so I let you go.
I stand by my point. It's just different opponent.
Sure. Tomorrow we've got Air Force and Baylor and what promises to be a snoozer in the Lockheed.
Again, I'm a Patriot. Go Air Force.
Go Falcons. And then we have a few games this weekend. December 23rd, we got Houston and the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. Let's see. Cougars have won 5. Houston's won 5 of the last 7 games. Clayton Tune thrown over 2,600 yards. He'll be the player to watch in this one, according to ESPN.com. That's all you need to know about that. Also on the 23rd, we have Wake Forest and the Missouri Tigers in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. This is another thing. I miss the days when it was just the Gasparilla or the Outback Bowl. Like, we didn't have these mouthful names where you have to pronounce 6 or 8 words before you finally get to the name of the bowl. Like, just give me the Gasparilla Bowl. Like, what
it's Gasparilla.
Whatever. Shout out to our fans in Mexico City. It's Gasparilla.
No, I just can't keep up with them anymore. Like, if Mississippi State is not going to play in the Outback Bowl and win me a blooming onion, then don't even send them anywhere.
Yeah. Let's see. Christmas Eve. Again, we used to have just the Hawaii Bowl, right? Like, you get to go play in Hawaii. That's great. Now it's the Easy Post.
The sponsor is the state of Hawaii.
Yeah. Now it's apparently the Easy Post sponsored Hawaii Bowl.
I'm going to guess, is that a stamps company or is it cereal?
I think it's a fence company. I don't know.
That's a segment. We're going to do. What does this company do?
I'm here for it next week. Stay
Give me
tuned
the
for
next sponsor, and I'll tell you what it is.
well, real quick in that one, it's actually decent. MTSU, the Blue Raiders from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, who beat Miami on their own field and then promptly turned on, got blown out by Louisiana Tech, who won all of 3 games this year, play San Diego State. So that could be a wild game. The next one, this one's an easy one. Sorry, softball. December 26th is the Quick Lane Bowl, Bowling Green and New Mexico State.
That's where you get your tires changed and get a loan.
Yeah, it's like that's like that commercial where that lady's knitting the sweaters and they get done too fast, and so all her family has the crop tops for their Christmas
I
party.
tried to get my wife to recreate that picture for our Christmas
I
party.
think they're incredible.
Yeah.
Couple more before we record next week. The Camellia Bowl.
That is Flowers.
Yep, that's in Montgomery, Alabama. Buffalo versus Georgia Southern. Anytime one of those teams above the Mason-Dixon line ventures below, I expect the team that's below the Mason-Dixon line to hold serve. Give me Georgia Southern in that game.
That's just that Confederate mentality you got.
That's it, man. Apparently. The Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, Utah State Aggies versus the Memphis State Tigers.
Memphis State, you say?
Yeah, man, I keep Memphis State. It's kind of a cool name, man. When they do those throwback jerseys, they look good. So Memphis State.
Who you pulling for on this one?
Why, are you gonna take the other
one? No, I'm just not pulling for Memphis. Go Aggies.
That's fair. I can get behind that. Go Aggies. I can get behind that. And then a couple more, couple of decent ones actually. We got the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl.
I went to the BBVA Compass Bowl one time in Birmingham.
Yeah, I think that's what this used to be. Now it is the Ticket Smarter is the Battle of Carolinas, East Carolina versus Coastal Carolina, which could kind of be the same because Coastal Carolina is East Carolina. But
let me ask you, do you have the location pulled up? Is that played at what field is that played at?
Protective Life Stadium.
Okay. So they're not playing that at Legion Field anymore. Because I went to Legion Field. Let me tell you what, they didn't even have a bathroom.
That place is dumb, man.
yeah. That place is it's in the middle of the hood, and they didn't even have drinks for sale.
Yeah. And then finally, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Drew, what do they do there?
They guarantee interest rates for home and auto insurance.
Yep, played at Chase Field. This is going to be Oklahoma State and Wisconsin, which is an interesting matchup, mostly because both teams' starting quarterbacks are in the transfer portal, so neither of them are going to play. So it's a battle of the backups. And this is a fun stat. The Badgers' 2 backups have attempted a combined 11 passes this season. And then the true freshman quarterback for the Cowboys started 2 games, filling in for the injured Spencer Sanders, but was terrible, and they lost both games. So this is the future fighting Luke Fickles against I'm a man, I'm 40, Mike Gundy.
Yeah. I like Mike Gundy.
I do too, man. The mullet, it works for him, man. It fits his personality.
You still have it?
I know he did last year. I hadn't seen him this year, but
okay. Anyway. You got any thoughts on it?
I think it's going to be a snooze fest. You got backup quarterbacks left and right. Oklahoma State can move the ball. Wisconsin's defense is the only thing good about that team. And in bowl games, give me the defense. Go Badgers.
Okay. Well, what you got? What do you want to hit next? We've got a smattering of topics.
Yeah, let's talk National Signing Day before we get into the Grizz a little bit. I know you got an opinion, and I think that we share a similar opinion here. But Drew, when I was in high school, when I was in college, like it's a big deal, right? Like you sign your national letter of intent in February. It's a big signing day. Right. And then like when I was going through it and going through college, going to high school, you just signed a letter. Like that was it. Then now you moved on to the picking of the hats. And then over the last couple of years, you've had all these epic videos that people have done. And so it's just completely devolved. And then now all of a sudden we have the early signing period. So it loses some of that luster, in my opinion. And I'm curious of yours, of what used to be February was the signing day. And that's when you knew what kind of team you were going to have the next year.
Well, we share some of the opinion. I'm not going to be an old curmudgeon because the hats and the elaborate videos announcing your intentions to sign are amazing.
Yeah, something like
Deontay Anderson, who ended up not being much, but at the time was a 4-star safety out of Manville High School in Houston, Texas, committed to Ole Miss, and on signing day, he released a video of him jumping out of an airplane.
that.
And when his chute deployed, there was an Ole Miss flag, and I was like,
God.
"You telling me that this guy's going to be an All SEC guy? Like, there's no doubt. He's got no fear." A year and a half later, if you Google Leonard Fournette highlights, he's one of them.
He gave that kid a ride.
He's the guy that Leonard Fournette hits going 90 miles an hour down the sideline, and all you see is legs.
I remember that.
So yeah, I love the theatrics of it. However, where signing day lost me is the early signing day because it may benefit kids or coaches. I don't care. I'm talking about as a consumer and a lover of college football and a former lover of signing day. I used to take off every national signing day because when Freeze was there and I was really into recruiting and he was putting together these huge recruiting classes, it was incredible. And you could circle one day of the year and it was like, that's the day you're going to know who you got.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, I guess it's kind of worked out the same way. Like, coaches are pushing kids to do the early signing day. That's now the signing day. However, it's like 3 days before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's just at a weird time. And it's also, well, if they don't sign then they'll sign in February. And so
Right.
it's all, they used to have this trajectory, you're going visits in the fall and then you get your dead period and then you start getting rumors and everything happens and it's just crescendo to February and then it's over. Well, now you've got this like sort of peak and then it drops down and then whoever's left signs in February and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Couple that with the fact that the transfer portal, like I don't know how teams who are recruiting heavily and doing an incredible job at recruiting, like Texas A&M, who have the #1 recruiting class last year, how can you even be excited about your recruiting
Yeah.
class? Because if things don't go perfectly, they're leaving anyways.
Right.
So like, there's so much rollover in college football rosters these days that you can't even afford to get excited about your new recruits coming in. I mean, you look at Texas, and you got to know in the back of their mind, like they've got Arch, but Quinn Ewers is a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
are they? Do you really have Arch, or in a year, are you going to have to pick between Arch and Quinn Ewers, and one of them's hitting the road because they're not going to be backups.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, you got Arch, that's a win. But you've got to know, like, okay, when's the shoe going to drop? It takes away to me, it takes away the fun of signing day. But it all started from I quit paying attention to recruiting when Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Akers went somewhere else. Like
Big Jeff, baby.
Though Jeffrey Simmons wounded me greatly, and Cam Akers killed me. I thought Cam Akers coming out of Clinton High School was going to be a rebel. He was going to be a rebel for years until he wasn't.
Yeah.
And you ask him, he probably would have. It worked out nicely. He had a very subpar college career, but he's in the NFL, so I guess mission accomplished. But I bet if you ask him, he'd probably
the rumors about Big Jeff where it was Ole Miss 1, Alabama 2, and State was not even on the radar. When he picked up that State hat on signing day, man, I just let out an audible just holler because
oh yeah,
there was no indicators that he was coming to Mississippi State. Did we hire his coach? Yeah, absolutely. That didn't hurt.
And there was a bag there, but if you're not paying, then you ain't trying.
That's it, man.
But what happened that was the same signing day as AJ Brown,
and
DK Metcalf and all them, and everybody all their money that was going other places didn't pan out, and so all the funds got pulled to Mr. Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, like I said, with the whole NFL draft and opt out thing, you only get so many opportunities to make a bag and get it
Yeah.
in cash money right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to
Yeah.
take it.
And listen, we may not have had the flashy players, but we became D-line U there for a little while because you look across the NFL and there are most of your Pro Bowl defensive linemen.
Most.
Jeff Simmons, Chris Jones, Fletcher Cox, Danico Autry, Pro Bowl defensive linemen.
I mean, you just said most, and I
Yeah.
mean that would entail. I mean,
You got Preston Smith, Preston Smith, Montez Sweat. Like you look you look around the league.
All Pro Bowlers.
They're all pros.
But you say most, like 51%. That's what most means. And so, yeah, if most people say I'm beautiful, do you think that 51% of women across this great land think I'm beautiful?
Nope.
Well, that's what you're saying about Mississippi
It ain't
State.
Nobody outside of them four walls. Right
Most Pro Bowlers are Mississippi State defensive linemen. Nah, I mean, you're just exaggerating. You got your fair share.
D-line U. But anyway, I hear you.
Like Alabama.
It changes the landscape a little bit. You know, it's lost some of that luster to me. Like you said, just because you have a guy in December doesn't mean you're going to have him the following December. What the transfer portal is, what it is. You know, these guys, like there was a left tackle at Western Kentucky. He signed at Western Kentucky and was going to be this. What's happening?
Grizzlies are getting beat 15-4 by Denver.
That's not surprising.
17-4.
Yeah. But you got this left tackle at Western Kentucky, likely going to be a first-round draft pick, enters, just kind of puts feelers out there and comes back to Western Kentucky and says, this is what I'm worth on the open market. They match. He ends up staying. But that's what you get now with this transfer portal. And so signing day has lost some of the luster because, like, unless these kids get the bag that they're looking for, some of them may not even stay.
But even if they do, Quinn Ewers reclassified to go to Ohio State because NIL got pushed through legislation. And so because NIL got pushed through, he reclassified, skipped his senior year, went to Ohio State, got a truckload of money, left without ever taking a snap, and went to Texas and cashed in again. Are you talking about a capitalist?
Yeah.
That guy looks like a country music singer from the 90s. Yeah. Let me tell you what, he's got the business acumen of a real estate mogul.
Yeah, at 18 years old. And I'm curious, like you said, what depending on which way Texas leans, like does Arch then go somewhere else in the SEC? Does Quinn go back to Ohio State? Does he leave?
That's what Arch is coming home, baby.
Oh, God.
Hey, well, why not?
You think he's going to take such a step down from a program as Texas to a middle of the pack
program that you're not playing at to an SEC school?
He's going to go to Georgia, Alabama. Like there's a million schools he would go to before he go to Ole Miss.
We're still home. Don't discount it.
Yeah, but he can get a bag in Tuscaloosa.
His uncle, his brother, his daddy are all there. I mean, you can't deny that it's not on the radar.
If it is, it's so far out and left up. Again, the Christmas wish is the delusion of an Ole Miss fan.
You're just being that is dots that are connected so easily. You just want to make it more difficult.
The delusion of an Ole Miss fan, man.
Oh, if you're saying that a man thinking that a Manning might entertain coming to Ole Miss is a delusion, then you're delusional.
The only reason he would entertain it so he could get more money from Georgia.
I mean, Georgia's got the money.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're making a decision based on money, I'm not saying Ole Miss is going to be outbid anybody.
So it's the same thing. It's the same
where
thing.
He grew up.
And you may be right because it's the same thing your head coach is doing. He's using Ole Miss as a way to get more money in the future, whether that's at a bigger school or wherever he's going to end up. Maybe you get a quarterback that'll do the same to you, and it couldn't happen to a better institution.
Hey, you come here and win and get a better job. All more power to you.
Yeah, go 8-4 and get a better job, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, we went 10-2 last year.
No, yeah. And this year was the year like we're gonna be in the college football playoffs, and you're 8-4 losing.
Oh, first, I never said that. And if anybody did say that, they were delusional. That person. Let's not make it the whole fan base here.
Anyway,
let's lump everybody together.
So moving right along, let's talk about our Grizz. We kind of queued it up. We're currently getting beat by the Nuggets, way too far above sea level to be playing NBA basketball, but we're there. Coming off of an embarrassing loss, Drew. I know you watched it, man. It was tough. Even if Ja got ran, like we talked about earlier, just like the
Well,
team
that's when
wasn't
I
in.
turned it off, if I'm being honest.
I watched it to the bitter end. I wrote a blog post about it, $2bucksportspod.com, the number $2bucksportspod.com. It's embarrassing. Like, it's not on the coach. It was on the team. It was on our players. They were not interested. You could tell they didn't want to be there. There was no interest whatsoever. We're now down 3 touchdowns. It's 21-6. And once again, looks like we're not interested in playing basketball tonight. And it's like, guys, like, you can't rest on the laurels. Like, it doesn't take away the credit from what we did against Milwaukee and Giannis, because we absolutely took their lunch money.
Well,
Dylan Brooks
I
was
mean,
incredible, but what it does, it looks like we're resting on that one victory and not taking care of business against teams that we should.
an argument can be made for that for sure. However, this is an 82 game season, and Milwaukee is not 40 points less than the Grizzlies either. I mean, you have games, and Milwaukee couldn't hit a shot, and the Grizzlies were out of sorts. And we were listening. I'll give credit. I'm a daily listener to the Chris Vernon Show. He is where I go for all my Grizzlies wisdom. It's where that's who I listen to first, and he's got this old saying where he used to cover Hubie Brown when he was a coach for the Grizzlies, and he would say, "You play an 82 game season, you can chalk up 5 games that you will lose no matter what. The other team's got it, and you don't." And you can chalk up 5 games that you're going to win no matter what, no matter who you're playing, whatnot, because you've got it and the other team don't. And the season is made in those other 72 games. And what that game against Oklahoma City and that game for against Milwaukee are 2 sides of that same coin. We had it and Milwaukee didn't, and we didn't have it and Oklahoma City did. Now you can say they weren't ready, they weren't paying attention. I get it. It's fine. It's 82 games, and you're just not gonna. They had just come off of a 5 game homestand, a 5 game homestand, and going on the road for the first time, getting out of their own house for the first time.
Sure.
They probably went to Oklahoma City, had a few drinks,
Sure.
showed up a little slow,
Sure.
and they saw that Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't playing, and they took him lightly. There's no doubt they took him lightly, and you can fault them for that. But instead, I'm just going to chalk it up to being like,
I'll give you that.
Season.
I'll give you that. And then here we are 2 days later, we're down 22-8. And it's not what you do in adversity, it's what you do with success. We had a great win. All eyes are on you. I understand, sure, you have a letdown game against Oklahoma City, but then what you do is you say, look, we screwed up. We dropped the ball there. We've got to bounce back and play better. And what do? Is you come out and you lay an egg in the first quarter of your next road game. We're 6-8 on the road this year. Look, I mean, obviously trending towards 6-9, being down, 3 touchdowns like we are. It doesn't look like we're handling success very well. Again, it's 2 games out of 82 game season. I'll give you that. But we've got Phoenix, we've got Golden State coming up on the road, and Phoenix again at home. You got to figure something out. Like, you can say that all you want. It's 1 game. Well, it's 2 games. Well, it's 3 games. Then it becomes a trend. And at some point, you got to break that cycle and win a basketball game. We finally broke double digits.
Sure. What you're saying is probably true. I think you're just making a bigger deal out of it than what I am.
I don't know,
I'm saying we're fine.
If you turned it off after the jaw ejection, then you didn't see how bad we played.
Who would?
Awful.
We were getting beat 20 when Jaw got ejected.
It was awful. And it got worse. There was it did not look like a competitive basketball team.
Did.
And here we are. Here we are 2 days later. Well, yeah, like usually when that lights a fire under you, come back and make it competitive. And yeah, we did it in the last 5 minutes, but there was 2 and 3/4 quarters where it was bad basketball, and clearly we're off to that same start. So
listen, this team is just fine. We're 19-10. We do struggle on the road. That does scare me a little bit, especially if you start projecting that towards playoffs. But also with playoffs, though, comes another level of intensity on both sides. I mean,
yeah, but how do you handle success, man? You can't go win a first game by 40 points and then lose the next 2 at Sacramento, wherever you end up playing.
Yeah, but you say that they not handling success, but they just won. They had a 7-game win streak.
Sure, they did.
So
Now
that's a lot of handling of successes.
and then they're getting embarrassed. But yeah, that's easy to do at home, like you said, from the comforts of your home. Then you go on the road and you got to handle that success, and you get embarrassed by a bad basketball team. And then Denver's, they're fine. They're not great. They got Jokic, but what else?
Not just Jokic. I mean, he's incredible.
I mean, he's incredible, but what else you
got? To put a bow on the Grizzlies, and I want to talk about Jokic for a second. You can go ahead and write off the Grizzlies if you want to. I'm in here. I'm taking it. I will take it on the chin, and I'm gonna keep saying this team is in the top 2 to 3 teams in the West, and I don't care what they look like against Oklahoma City in December.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying we've got to play better road basketball.
And I agree with you. So, did you see that Jokic stat line from his last game against Charlotte?
That's unbelievable.
47 points. I'm sorry, 40 points, 27 rebounds, and 10 assists.
That's video game stats. That's video.
And I know that he is the back-to-back MVP, but I still feel like he is only appreciated by like NBA nerds, like people who, like me, I just love and follow the NBA because he's not a jersey that just is going to sell. I don't know if it's because it's not because he's a foreigner, because Luka's got a huge Q rating, but I think Jokic does not get the respect that he's got. He's not flashy, I guess, but
it's such a guard-heavy league. You've got Steph, you've got Ja, you've got Chris Paul, Devin Booker. Such a guard-heavy league that an old-school center like Jokic is not going to get the press. Because back in the '90s, when I was growing up, it was Hakeem, it was Patrick Ewing, it was Alonzo Mourning, it was these big centers, and now it's changed.
That's the point of Jokic that doesn't get talked about enough, is that he is not a big lug. That dude, he may look it, and don't let the look of him looking like big country fool you. That dude moves and passes and rebounds and shoots. It's incredible to watch. Like, I was so happy that they were playing at 9:00 tonight. The kids are in bed. We're going to podcast, and when we're done, it'll be in the second quarter. And I'm gonna sit here, and even if the Grizzlies are getting worked, I'm gonna sit here and watch Jokic and just foam at the mouth. Like, that dude is incredible.
It's like having 2 point guards on the floor, because he sees the floor so well from the post that, like, it's like, just because you can drop a guard, you can double team, he's going to find the open guy. He's like what Marc Gasol was trying to be, but
he's like Marc on steroids.
Because he's aggressive. That was the thing with Marc. Marc was so passive. Like, it was cool to watch him facilitate, but there were games we needed Marc Gasol to take over and win basketball games, and he would never do it. It was mind-numbingly frustrating. Whereas Jokic will say, you know what? Nobody else has it tonight. I'll go drop 40 and win us a basketball game.
Right.
Marc never did that.
All right, let's move out of the NBA. Just quick transition. You texted me Sunday. We were driving home. It's time for Uncle Buck's soccer minute, and it's only going to be a minute. But like I've said every podcast, this started out as a joke. Okay, I didn't even realize the World Cup was coming on, but here I was, and fully invested in this World Cup, and the World Cup final between Argentina and France was going on at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. And first off, a 9 a.m. kickoff is just incredible. You're talking about waking up. Now, I was driving, but like, I can put myself at my house. Like, waking up, having a cup of coffee, and watching sports at 9 a.m. is probably what the only advantage to living out on the West Coast would be. The NFL starts at like 10 a.m. Like, it'd be just incredible. But you text me and you were like, "Are you watching this?" And I was like, "Are you watching this?" And so, I'm the designated driver in my family, and that's not a drinking thing. That is, my wife hates driving. But at one point, I had it on while I was driving, but I was listening to it. Now, I couldn't find a radio feed, and so with the soccer announcers, they do a pretty good job of keeping you up to date vocally without having to rely too much on the video. and it was absolutely incredible. Messi, who apparently is like Charles Barkley, was like Charles Barkley of soccer. Like he
Mhm.
was incredible. Everybody appreciated him, but he never won the big one.
Mhm.
And he scores on a penalty kick in early in the game to put him up one. He has this incredible uh, touch pass in front of a defender to another player of his who kicks it in. And this is all in the first half to go up 2-0. In soccer, it's just like, okay, 2-0. Let's just hang back, try our hardest not to lose this one. But that's a pretty commanding lead.
Yeah.
And they play 90 minutes. And in like the 79th minute, France, whose star player, Kylian Mbappe, who is just a freak. You watch. I don't know how much you watch. When did you turn it on?
It was tied 3-3 towards the end of the game, and then I saw a
Oh,
penalty.
okay. So you missed this.
Mhm.
He got a penalty that they tackled him in the box, resulting in a penalty kick. Penalty kicks are a joke, like I've said before. He makes it 2-1, and a minute and a half later, in a game that plays 90 minutes, and you're lucky to get 2 or 3 goals. 90 seconds later, he catches one out of the air. They kick it over to him, and without the ball even touching the ground, that dude is sideways and just hits a howler, as they call it, a howler, and ties it up. And I was floored. I was like, "You've got to be kidding!" Like that is one of the single most athletic things I've ever seen in my life in a sport which I thought was just running in place for 90 minutes. You know? And so they tie it up. They go into extra time. Messi is the hero again. He gets the goal, and then all they got to do again, wait for France. Just wait them out. And here comes Mbappe again and scores gets another penalty, ties it up, and that sucker goes to penalty kicks. And there is no more tension in the world. It's like a 50-yard field goal to
Mhm.
no. Yeah, 50-yard field goal is more difficult than a penalty kick. It's like a free throw. but literally billions of people are watching you.
4
And,
billion people watch the World Cup. 4
yeah.
billion.
And Argentina pulls it out, and everybody was being all emotional, and I wasn't. I mean, I'm not that involved yet to where I was shedding tears, but everybody started. I'm happy for Messi. Happy for Messi. Finally he's the GOAT. He's got the only thing he's never done before. It was incredible, and I'm genuinely looking forward to the next World Cup, especially considering where the next World Cup is. It's in Canada.
Oh.
However, it's like the Olympics. It'll be in Canada, but like the regional host sites, a lot of them are going to be in the U.S. And so if you're a host country of the World Cup, you're automatically qualified. So the U.S. will be in it again.
There we go. Got a shot to make it. But yeah, I mean, I watched the penalty kicks. Mbappe, he did his thing for France. Credit to the Argentina goalie. He made some incredible saves on some of those penalty kicks. Like it was, I mean, it was.
When he started dancing after that second save he made,
I knew it was over right then.
Dude, that dude was built for it. Like
Yeah.
I want that guy in my foxhole.
He was not at that moment was not too big for him. He was ready. He was ready to roll,
and he had the celebration queued up. He was feeling himself. He knew he was the only one in that stadium who knew he was blocking this one.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah.
All right, what we got next, Buckets?
We'll wrap up with a little League of Avengers talk.
No. Oh, hey, I did want to hit this real quick. I don't know if you saw this, and we'll just spend a second on it. The Phoenix Suns sold today. The majority stake was bought by a fella named Matt Ishbia. I guess it's how I'm going to pronounce it. Ishbia or something.
He was Clay Travis's from Twitter fame's law school classmate. Sidebar.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring Clay Travis into this. However, the majority of the company was sold, of the team, and that is for the Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, the WNBA team. $4 billion.
Which is like 3.999 billion for the Suns and like 100K for the Mercury.
Now, why you got to take shots?
Anyway.
Like, listen, if the Phoenix Suns were playing basketball in my backyard, I wouldn't open the blinds. But $4 billion to buy that team. And I was kind of doing some reading. He is, like we were talking about bowl games. He is the CEO of a mortgage lender company. And the most fascinating thing I found was I'm gonna read you some stuff. He is the NBA's youngest owner, but he is also mortal enemies with Dan Gilbert, who is the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay, so he started this. He took over his dad's company that had 12 employees. The firm is now sitting at 7,200 employees. He seems like a great guy. They went on to talk about how he gives out these huge prizes at company Christmas parties, calls at least 2 employees every day to tell them they're doing a good job. But the most interesting part is that his biggest company rival is with Dan Gilbert, who owns Rocket Mortgage. I don't know if you knew that's where he got his money from. It goes so far to say during COVID, Rocket Mortgage reduced its workforce by 2,000 people. And Ishibuya, the new owner of the Phoenix Suns, called it disgusting. And to take it a step further, issued an ultimatum to other mortgage brokers saying he would no longer work with brokers who sent loans to Rocket Mortgage. And then the feud got worse when Ishibuya and Gilbert, they're both alumni of Michigan State, and Ishibuya donated $32 million to the Michigan State Athletic Department last year, but just a month after he donated that, Dan Gilbert announced a 5-year deal that made Rocket Mortgage the presenting sponsor of the Michigan State basketball team. And so they are just in this constant competition of trying to one up each other, and they hate each other. And so I'm just thinking, like, I wish they were in the same division, but you got to think that this new owner for Phoenix bought this team as a way to try to get back at Dan Gilbert. He's just, his driving force is to beat Cleveland.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I like that. That's good.
Let's just not talk about League of Avengers today.
Okay.
You cool with that?
I'm fine with that.
Oh, really?
No, I'm not fine with that. Man, there's somebody in the championship game on this podcast. What are you talking about, man? Get out of here with that mess.
Yeah.
Man.
So, week 1 of the playoffs, Rusty beat the brakes off of Aaron, who
You're welcome.
I wanted to root for Aaron, but dang it, he just keeps texting me, telling me that Will Levis is good, and I just can't keep it up with him.
Because his rebuttal to the fact that Will Levis puts mayonnaise in his coffee is that he also eats bananas with the peel on. Like, that's going to help his cause.
Like, well, I mean, maybe he's just weird. Maybe he's eclectic, you know? Like,
Prince was eclectic. Will Levis is just bad.
Yeah, like I told him, like, Patrick Mahomes puts ketchup on steaks, and I can overlook because Patrick Mahomes is incredible. I'm not going to overlook this by Will Levis because Will Levis stinks.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, Rusty beat Aaron emphatically, and Justin Lumpkin beat Zach emphatically. And so that leads us up to a 2-week battle for the Stanley Cup that will be decided in the next 2 weeks. And week 1 looks extremely competitive. Last I checked, Rusty and Lump were projected to be within 2.5, 3 points of each other for week 1. That's, that's worth as much as the paper you printed on, honestly. But I mean, if that projection holds true, man, I'm excited, and I hope that my only hope is that one, if you win, I'm not sending it. You're gonna have to come get it. It's a big trophy, and I'm not going to send it to South Carolina.
Mhm,
Uh, I hope that it's competitive going into the last week
mhm.
because there's nothing more fun for a team that is not in it, and for a general manager of a fantasy football team that's not in it, than to just be able to watch that last
Mhm.
week and keep up
Yeah.
with Lump's team, who I will be rooting hard for.
That's fair. Yeah, yeah, well, it looked a lot better for me. And then Jonathan Taylor went down with a high ankle sprain. He's done for the year. So I think it'll be a good matchup. Lump's team is incredibly hot. They've been scoring a ton of points lately. I
He's
think it'll
got the
be,
best team in the league. I think you've
yeah,
got to look at him and just on paper, it's hard to
yeah,
deny that he's
yeah.
got the best team in the
I've
league.
told you all along I've not loved this team. I've just gotten more lucky than good. But sometimes it's what it takes to win. And Drew, that Stanley Cup's going to look real good about like right here over my shoulder, week in and week out, if I'm lucky enough to win. But that's a
Yeah.
big if, because Lump's team is pretty tough right now.
Well, if you hang that up, I'm gonna get me a bookcase, and I will put up every single thing that I bought that has of Ole Miss National Championship College World Series merch that I have that I spent a lot of money on. I mean, I've got everything.
Same.
You,
I've
you
got a lot of
I'll
missing
have
the tape.
I'll have all 7 cups and coffee cups and banners and koozies. I'm just looking around here,
Yeah.
pictures and Coca-Cola bottles. I mean, look at this. That will be what I'm drinking out
And
of every single time that I get on the phone with you. If you have the Stanley Cup in the background,
and I'll make sure that as the host, I'll find a way to blur out your background.
yeah. Let's see.
What?
I'm just looking at Lump's team real quick, but yeah, Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. That's what has
Yeah. Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's got Josh Jacobs, who's the
Josh.
second best fantasy running back in the league this year. That's a tough team. It's going to be a tough team to beat, but I agree. I hope it's competitive. I think it'll be a good matchup. We'll see what happens. So, but with that, Drew, thanks. It's another great episode, man. It's always fun doing these. You know, we joke all the time, like, you know, even if it just ends up being our fantasy football league or our mamas and our friends that listen to this, like, I enjoy doing this week in and week out. It's a ton of fun to get in here and talk some sports, talk some smack. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing this week after week. So appreciate you being here, man.
And just a reminder, please, please, please go find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter and Instagram, the number 2 Buck Sports Podcast. Search 2 Buck Sports Podcast in YouTube. Subscribe to it, and Spotify. Yes, obviously Spotify. Subscribe to it. Throw us a review. We'd appreciate it. Share it with your friends. That's probably the most important thing you could do for us, to share it, because we genuinely like it. And as we go forward, especially as we get into a lull, we want to get some feedback. We want to get some questions, some topic ideas, whatever we can do. We want to interact, and that's the reason why we've set up the website for the blog post. We want to drive as much interaction as we can, because we like doing this and we feel like we got something promising. And so being able to reach out and talk to folks that like the podcast, we'd love to do that.
Yep. As always, keep your nose clean. We'll see y'all back next week. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you decide to celebrate. We'll see y'all back here next week.
Merry Christmas, guys.